Ben McKee, West Rucker, Go Vols 24/7 here with our full court press inside of a Memorial Gymnasium where the lights have been turned out, and the lights have been turned out because Dalton Knecht himself walked back there and turned them out.
He basically did. I mean, a 75-62 Tennessee win that, Ben, for a lot of that first half, it felt like so many Tennessee games we've seen in the past when things don't go well. There's not a lot of those nights, but they happen, and you see guys get timid. They don't want to take threes. The offense is a little clunky. Who's going to step up, right? That was before. Like, now there's Dalton Knecht, and it's just a different team. And it's like at some point in Athens, everywhere they've gone on the road, at some point in the game, they just go, let's just give it to three for a little bit, and he'll turn the game around. And he did.
Very interested, getting a little too far ahead of myself, but very interested to see how that plays in Rupp Arena next Saturday. And not suggesting that Dalton's not capable of doing that in Rupp Arena. It would just, his legend status is growing. And I believe it's 4 straight road games, 30 points. The only road games he's played in as a Vol, he scored at least 25, including the Wisconsin game earlier this year. If he does what he's been doing in that building next Saturday, golly, that legend's going to grow leaps and bounds, even more than it already has.
You think about the 2 Tennessee players that jump out to my mind since I've covered the team that have gone up there and just torn the lights out, basically, were Ron Slay and were Chris Lofton, and those were SEC Players of the Year.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's sort of a shame for Knecht that Zach Edey still exists at the college level, because I think he's already wrapped up the Wooden and Naismith and everything else. But he's the best player in the league. He's one of the best players in the country. First-team All-American. There's no question. This is a special player, and one season of him is better than none.
Absolutely, and he actually just said, to your point about that last comment, he wishes he had more than 1 year at Tennessee, which I thought was a pretty cool comment. And yeah, Zach Edey does seem to have wrapped up all the National Player of the Year awards, but right now, if the season ended today, which there's still a lot of basketball left, but still, he would be the SEC Player of the Year, and he'd be an All-American, which not too shabby, if I do say so myself.
Should be a consensus All-American. I mean, I don't know if it's a tough argument at times to say there's a single player in the country better than him right now. There's absolutely no discussion where there's 5 players in this country better than him. It's just. And the thing that surprises me just quickly, Ben, is how we know he can score. He showed up at Tennessee with an NBA-ready offensive game. Scouts knew that. Rick Barnes knew that. He's come a million miles an other way. He blocked a couple more shots tonight. He's been a better facilitator on offense. He's getting more rebounds. He came here to Tennessee to get coached hard and do those things, and it's getting lost in the shuffle because of how well he's scoring the ball. But he is doing those things, and he's getting better all the time.
Yeah, and he did have some help in the second half. Rick talked about the 3 that Jordan Gainey hit early in the second half to help Tennessee spark that run and get Dalton going. Good to see Jordan do what he did for a second straight game. And then also J.P. Estrella in the first half delivering big minutes in the post.
And he needed to, because Tobe Awaka cannot stop fouling. I wrote the story, I think, for yesterday that he's had 7.8 fouls per 40 minutes, which is an incredible number. For comparison, Plavsic last year had 6.0, and it seemed like he was a walking foul. So that's got to stop, right? Tobe Awaka he had a great summer for Team USA. I think he's going to have a nice career at Tennessee. He, even in the 4 or 5 minutes he was out there, had a couple of big game-changing rebounds that led to threes and kickouts, and he's a good player, a really good player. He's going to have a lot of double-doubles here. But he's not going to start doing that until he stops fouling. And they're lucky that Adu's had a great year and really come on, and that Estrella and Phillips have had their moments, because they need more from Awaka, and he's got to get on the floor.
Yeah, and I think it'll click for him at some point. He's too talented and too smart not to. In terms of the main negative from today, that ugly first half, Vanderbilt certainly outplayed Tennessee in the first half. The whistle wasn't the greatest whistle in both halves of basketball for both teams, especially Tennessee late in the first half. I kind of thought it was having a week off, and Rick talked afterwards, just shots not going down, some guys not taking the shots that they needed to, the ball not popping around. To me, maybe Rick would disagree with this, but to me that's the sign of a team that hasn't played a competitive basketball game in longer than they typically have this time of year.
Yeah, and Vandy hadn't either this week, so I guess that goes into part of it. So it makes you question it a little bit, but Vandy has a really good basketball coach. He is not a great recruiter. We can all see this. But the stuff that they run, there's a reason why Barnes talks about it so much. It's not because he wants Stackhouse to be here forever. It's because he's just an honest guy, and he calls it what it is. Vandy's ball movement, the traps they put on defense, they knew where to hurt Tennessee, and they were doing that. It's just that at the end of the day, Tennessee's level of athleticism and skill and size and strength and everything else was just superior to Vanderbilt's. But, I mean, Vandy's got a point guard who, if he could shoot the ball, would just be an unbelievable basketball player. He does everything else, but he's just not a very good shooter. And so they're just kind of incomplete in a lot of ways because that's what they've recruited. But I think Tennessee, again, we've seen Tennessee, good versions of Tennessee, lose games like this many times. And they won tonight, and I think you got to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and my final thought is just that first half was very fluky. I don't have any red flags moving forward. I thought as much as Tennessee was kind of slow out of the gates following the week off, Ezra Mannion and Tyron Lawrence had a lot to do with that. Those are two very, very talented basketball players, and they had 22 of Vandy's 35 points in that first half. And Tennessee, to me, just wasn't knocking down open shots on top of passing on some open shots that they haven't been of late. Big week coming up.
Yeah, big
a
one.
very good South Carolina team coming to town on Tuesday night, and then a trip to Rupp Arena next Saturday, as we mentioned. And we will have plenty of coverage of today's win and plenty of coverage next week, of course, as well. He's Wes Rucker. I'm Ben McKee here with your Full Court Press at GoVols247.com inside of Memorial Gymnasium.